If you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. With these words, Nietzsche offers not a warning, but an invitation, a confrontation with what we avoid most, our own fear, doubt, and internal chaos. Procrastination often disguises itself as laziness, distraction, or even fatigue, but at its core, it is fear. Fear of beginning, fear of failing, fear of seeing what we truly are when no more excuses stand between us and the work. The abyss, in this context, is the blank page, the unanswered email, the overdue commitment. It is not darkness for its own sake, it is possibility without structure, freedom without direction, and that is what terrifies us. We don't just fear failure, we fear that in doing the thing, we will discover that we are not enough, or worse, that it was never meaningful to begin with. But Nietzsche doesn't suggest we run from the abyss. He calls us to lean in, to look into it long enough that it begins to look back, because only then do we truly know ourselves. Avoiding the abyss means staying shallow. We skim the surface of life, putting off not just tasks, but the deeper work of living authentically. To embrace the abyss is to stop rationalizing, to stop labeling our resistance as something benign. It is to say, I see the chaos, I feel the uncertainty, and I will step into it anyway, not because I am fearless, but because I refuse to be governed by fear. In practice, this means sitting with discomfort instead of numbing it. It means writing the first sentence even when it feels stupid, making the phone call even when your stomach knots, doing the task, not because it's easy, but because in doing it, you assert your will against the void. Each act becomes a rebellion against stagnation. Each moment of courage becomes a proof not that the abyss isn't real, but that it isn't final. You are not paralyzed by the unknown. You are shaped by your willingness to enter it. And in that willingness, procrastination begins to lose its power. Imagine for a moment that every action you take, every choice, every hesitation, every hour wasted or well spent will be repeated endlessly. That your life, exactly as it is, will recur again and again, down to its smallest detail. This is the thought experiment Nietzsche called the eternal recurrence. It is not a metaphysical claim, but a psychological tool, a moral test. If you knew you had to relive this exact day forever, would you still scroll through distractions, avoid the difficult task, or put off the conversation you've been dreading? Would you still waste the hours the same way, knowing they were no longer disposable, but eternal? The eternal recurrence strips away illusion. It confronts you with the weight of your choices, not as fleeting, but as permanent. Suddenly, the things you defer or neglect are not minor. They are your fate. They are the shape of your eternity. And when you apply this lens to procrastination, it reveals something powerful. The cost of delay is not just a missed deadline. It is the slow construction of a life you wouldn't want to live again. A life of avoidance, hesitation, and quiet regret. This is the horror Nietzsche wanted you to feel. Not to paralyze you, but to awaken you. In this test, procrastination becomes a spiritual error. It is a rejection of your own existence, a refusal to take your place in the stream of time with full responsibility. But there's hope here, too, because the eternal recurrence also offers a compass. If there is a task you would willingly repeat, an action you would choose again and again, then it is worthy. It is aligned with your deepest values. And if there are things you would not want to do again, then perhaps, now, in this singular moment, you can choose differently. You can treat this hour as sacred. You can do the work not to complete it, but to honor the life you are actively creating. Because you are not just passing time, you are laying down the pattern you may be asked to walk forever. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy lies a concept both raw and electric, the will to power. It is not merely the drive to dominate others, as it is often misunderstood. It is the deeper, more primal force to shape, to create, to overcome, and most importantly to assert the self against resistance. When you procrastinate, you relinquish this power. You yield your creative energy, not to someone stronger, but to nothingness itself, to hesitation, to fear, to inertia. And in that moment, your potential collapses under the weight of your avoidance. You do not delay a task, you delay your becoming. Every action taken is a declaration of identity. To act is to say, this is who I am. The will to power is expressed not in grand gestures, but in the ordinary decision to begin, to persist, to finish. When you choose to confront what you resist, even in the smallest of tasks, you reclaim authorship of your life. You move from passive observer to active force. You stop waiting for motivation, for clarity, for permission. You become the source of your own momentum. Procrastination, in contrast, is a quiet form of nihilism. It says nothing matters enough to move. It deadens the will. But Nietzsche's answer is not to shame yourself, nor to force productivity for its own sake. It is to align your effort with your becoming. Every task, no matter how mundane, becomes an opportunity to exert your power not over others, but over your own stagnation. To choose action is not just to get things done. It is to declare, again and again, I will not be ruled by doubt. I am the one who chooses. I am the one who acts. And in that choice, in that simple motion forward, you do more than break procrastination. You affirm your existence as something strong. Becoming, alive. Amor, Fatilov, of Fates, Nietzsche's call to embrace every part of your life, not just the triumphs, but the pain, the setbacks, the monotony, the tedious and difficult. It is not passive acceptance, it is active love. To say not merely this is fine, but this is mine. Procrastination often stems from resistance to discomfort, to boredom, to imperfection. We put things off because they do not feel ideal. We wait for clarity, for energy, for inspiration. But Amor Fati tells us, there is no ideal moment. There is only this one, and it is already yours. When you procrastinate, you turn away from the present in search of a better version of it. But the present is all you will ever have. To love your fate means to stop wishing the task were easier, or more enjoyable, or more meaningful. It means to stop asking the moment to be different and instead, to meet it fully, as it is. Even the smallest, dullest duty becomes sacred when you approach it with acceptance. When you say, this too belongs to my path, Amor Fati transforms your relationship with effort. It teaches you to love not just the outcome, but the process. Not just the success, but the struggle, the delayed project, the difficult email, the hour of mental fog. These are not obstacles to life, they are life. And to reject them is to reject the reality that shapes you. But when you take the task into your hands and carry it without resentment, you are no longer a victim of time or mood. You are a creator of meaning in real time. This love of fate does not eliminate difficulty, it illuminates it. It reminds you that nothing is wasted, not the boredom, not the fatigue, not even the days you failed. All of it can be used, all of it can be embraced. And in that embrace, procrastination loses its power. Because when you stop needing your life to be different in order to act, you become free to act in any moment. Not in spite of your fate, but because it is yours. The word should is heavy with invisible chains. It carries the weight of expectation, of obligation, of a morality that often isn't yours. I should be working. I should have started by now. I should be more disciplined. These statements seem like self-guidance, but in truth, they often disguise quiet self-betrayal. Nietzsche warned us about this, about the danger of inherited morality, of living under rules you did not choose. The voice that says, should, is often not your own. It echoes the voices of parents, teachers, institutions, and the culture around you. And when you obey it unthinkingly, you are not acting, you are submitting. Procrastination, under the rule of should, becomes more than avoidance. It becomes rebellion. You resist not just the task, but the invisible authority behind it. And so you delay, you stall, you numb. Not because you don't care, but because deep down, you resent being told what to value, what to prioritize, what to do. The tragedy is that in resisting the false morality, you often forfeit your real power. You reject the task, but not in favor of freedom, in favor of paralysis. To cure procrastination at this level, you must destroy the false morality of should. You must strip away the borrowed expectations and ask yourself, what do I value? What do I choose? Action that comes from obligation breeds resentment, but action that comes from conviction breeds power. Instead of saying I should do this, ask, do I will this? Is this aligned with the kind of person I want to become? If the answer is no, let it go without guilt. If the answer is yes, do it not because someone said you should, but because you mean it. Nietzsche's ideal was not the obedient man, but the sovereign one who creates his own values and lives by them. When you stop obeying should and start acting from deliberate will, you begin to reclaim your time, your energy, yourself. Procrastination loses its grip because there is no longer a hidden war inside you. There is only one voice, the one you've chosen to listen to, your own. Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch overman is not a figure of arrogance or superiority. It is the individual who transcends inherited beliefs and creates meaning from within. The Übermensch is not guided by duty, tradition, or fear of judgment, but by self-mastery, vision, and inner strength. To overcome procrastination through this lens is not to force yourself into discipline through guilt or external standards. It is to build your own values so deliberately that every action becomes an act of alignment rather than resistance. Most procrastination is the result of an inner conflict. You are pulled between what you think you should do and what actually matters to you. But if your values are not chosen, if they're simply absorbed from family, school, or culture, then every task feels hollow, disconnected, and imposed. Nietzsche's solution is radical. Destroy the values you did not choose and rebuild from nothing. Ask yourself not what is expected, but what is essential. What kind of person do I want to become? What work makes me feel alive? What sacrifices am I willing to make for something real? To apply this practically, turn your tasks into expressions of identity. Don't write because you should. Write because you value clarity, creation, or contribution. Don't exercise because others say it's healthy. Move because you honor vitality, strength, and endurance. In this way, action becomes coherent. It stops feeling like self-betrayal and starts feeling like self-affirmation. The Übermensch does not act for praise, nor from fear. He acts because he has chosen the path, and therefore every step, even the difficult ones, belong to him. This is where procrastination loses its edge. When your values are your own, there is nothing to rebel against. There is only the question, is this task aligned with the life I am building? If it is, you do it not out of obedience, but out of purpose. If it isn't, you discard it, without shame. Building your own values is not easy. It requires solitude, honesty, and courage. But once you begin, you no longer need willpower to drag yourself forward. You are pulled by something stronger. Conviction. Pain. It's something we all face. It knocks on our door uninvited, creeps in during our quiet moments, and stays longer than we'd like. Sometimes, it disguises itself as failure, heartbreak, loss, or rejection. But suffering, though it burns, though it breaks, can be the spark that awakens our deepest strength. Because hidden within every struggle is a choice to give in or grow, and growth is never born from comfort. It's born in the fire, when your plans fall apart, when people leave, when life says no. That's when your power is revealed, not when things are easy, but when everything feels impossible and you keep going anyway. You see, strength isn't the absence of pain, it's the courage to carry it, to stand tall when your heart is heavy, to keep moving when everything tells you to stop. The strongest people you know, they weren't handed peace, they earned it, through nights of crying alone, through days of doubt and fear, through moments where they thought they wouldn't make it, but they did, and so can you. Every scar is proof that you survived. Every setback is a setup for something greater. And every time you rise, even if it's slow, even if it's shaky, you are rewriting your story, turning wounds into wisdom, hurt into hope. This isn't just about being tough, it's about being real, letting yourself feel, fall, and fail, but refusing to stay down. Let the pain shape you, not define you. Let it teach you what strength really means. Not perfection, not invincibility, but resilience, grace, grit. You're not broken, you're becoming. So when life tests you again and again, don't ask why me. Ask, what can this make of me? Then lean in, rise up, and turn that suffering into strength. Life often feels like walking a rope stretched thinly over an abyss. One misstep, one gust of wind, and everything threatens to collapse. In those moments, fear takes hold. Doubt whispers, and the weight of existence feels unbearable. But it is exactly on that rope dangling between despair and hope that we discover what truly matters. Struggle is not the enemy. It is the proving ground of purpose, the abyss beneath us. It's real. It's the pain we carry, the questions we can't answer, the grief that won't let go. But the rope, the narrow, trembling path we keep walking is what gives our lives depth. If everything were easy, smooth, and secure, there would be no need for courage, no reason to fight, no opportunity to become something greater. It's in the struggle that we define who we are, not by how much we suffer, but by how deeply we search for meaning through it. When the world is silent and the darkness closes in, what keeps us moving forward is not comfort, it's the belief that our pain has a purpose, that even when we're bleeding, we are building, that even when we feel lost, we are, in truth, being refined. Struggle doesn't strip us of meaning. It demands we find it. It demands we look inward, past the noise, past the distractions, and ask ourselves, why am I here? What will I stand for when there's nothing to lean on? What will I hold on to when the abyss calls my name? The rope isn't there to save us from falling, it's there to show us how to balance, how to endure, how to transform fear into faith, agony into art, despair into direction. Meaning isn't found at the end of the rope. It's discovered step by step, breath by breath, as we move across it, uncertain, trembling, but alive. So when you find yourself over the abyss, don't curse the rope, grasp it, walk it, and know, every step forward is an act of defiance. Every moment you choose meaning over misery, purpose over pain, you reclaim your power. You are not just surviving the abyss, you are mastering the path above it. There is comfort in the crowd, safety in numbers. It feels good to be accepted, to blend in, to move with the rhythm everyone else follows. But creativity, true, raw, unfiltered creation doesn't live there. It doesn't grow in echo chambers or groupthink. It thrives in solitude, in silence, in the moments when you dare to break away from the herd. The herd instinct is seductive. It promises validation. It shields you from judgment, but it also chains you. It tells you to conform, to copy, to stay inside the lines. And slowly, without realizing it, your voice becomes an imitation. Your ideas shrink to fit what's already been said. Your originality dies in the noise. To create alone is not, to isolate it is to liberate. It is to shut out the chorus of opinions and hear your own voice, raw and unfiltered. It is to wrestle with doubt in the dark and still choose to speak. When you're alone, there's no applause, no one to tell you what's good or bad. There's just the work and the truth it demands from you. This path isn't easy. It's quiet. It's lonely. It will make you question everything. But in that silence, you will discover what is truly yours, your vision, your rhythm, your art. Not borrowed, not stolen, created. The herd will always mock what it doesn't understand. It will try to pull you back, make you feel foolish for choosing the harder road. But remember, nothing remarkable ever came from someone who stayed safe. Every revolutionary, every timeless creator, every bold thinker stood alone first. So if the world turns its back, let it. If no one understands, create anyway. The point was never to be understood by everyone. The point was to say something only you could say. Reject the herd, embrace the silence, create alone, and let the world catch up later. Discipline is not punishment. It's protection. In a world that constantly pulls at your attention, tempts you with ease, and feeds your impulses, discipline is the fortress you build to guard your purpose. It is the structure that stands when motivation fades, when emotions fluctuate, when distractions howl at the gates. Without it, you are exposed, vulnerable to your own worst habits, defenseless against the chaos outside and within. To build this fortress, you start with the bricks of routine. Wake up when you said you would. Do the work even when you don't feel like it. Follow through on promises made in silence, when no one is watching. These are not small acts. They are the foundation of self-mastery. Every time you choose focus over comfort, effort over ease, long-term gain over short-term pleasure, you add another stone to your walls. You reinforce the gate. You make your mind a place where weakness cannot rule. But discipline is not cold rigidity. It's clarity. It's knowing what you want and refusing to let your lower self sabotage it. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. And consistency, over time, becomes power. A personal fortress is not built in a day. It's built in early mornings, in quiet sacrifices, in the moments you say no to what feels good, now in service of what matters most later. And brick by brick, you become unshakable. The world will try to storm your gates. Life will test your defenses. But if you've built your discipline well, you won't crumble. You'll remain steady, rooted in your mission, unbothered by the noise. Because discipline isn't a burden, it's a freedom. The freedom to rise above distraction, to ignore the herd, to create, grow, and conquer it by chance, but by choice. Build your fortress, live inside it, and watch what happens when nothing can break you.